What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Coffee Bar Podcast, episode number 5, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. I'm Garrett.
Jesse.
And, it's been a couple weeks since we've recorded. But we are happy today to get one of the guests that I was excited to bring on. I know we've been trying for a couple weeks. I know we're busy, coronavirus, not ideal. But finally got him on. Mr. Jeremy Jirsa himself.
How's it going?
He's like, God damn it. These guys are pumping me up.
Jeremy was actually, I guess, the first friend you sort of told me about. I mean, I've never met him until today. Yeah. But we were on the we were on 83 going into Baltimore City. Yeah. And there's those crabs painted on those silos. And somehow that led to your friend who's an artist. Yeah. Yeah, I was He's like, you're like, yeah, you know those bags you get Chinese food in? He paints those.
I think it was before you came out with the t-shirts. Mm-hmm. So I think you were actually before you came with the hats, I think you were doing a t-shirt. And with the pins. That's when I was like, dude, these things are legit. But yeah. So we got Jeremy on. I'm going to do a little intro for him. So one thing I feel like we've been doing is allowing you guys, like the guest, to introduce himself. I didn't realize this because I'm not a guest, is I can't imagine trying to pump myself up. You know, it's like, in second grade, we're like, tell everybody 3 things about yourself. It's like really weird. Like, well, my favorite color is blue. And no. But so Jeremy is a friend of mine that I've known since I was 11 or 12. Played soccer together, sports with him, sports against him. Rival high schools growing up. I don't know the schools you went to, but I know you're a well-educated man, and you are a educator at that. Mm-hmm. You're a professor, artist, phenomenal artist. We'll get into that a little bit, a lot of it. Studied at Micah, I know. Studied in Florence.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Studied at University of Penn.
Yes.
Like I said, well-educated man. Very educated. A lot more educated than I am, especially when it comes to the stuff he's about to show off.
Big brain.
I just got wowed 5 minutes ago by something I thought for this whole entire time was something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess normally we recommend you're a listen or watch, whatever you prefer, but this is an episode that you might benefit from actually watching.
This is definitely a watch episode for sure. I looked at his website, jeremyjirsa.com. Jeremy spelled normally, JIRSA.com. Dude, he's got so many pictures of his artwork. Sick. Right now, you're in a gallery at Towson, right?
Yeah, I have a show up right now at Towson University. It's with me and several other Baltimore artists. The show's called Into the Void. So it's all about kind of this place of absence within society. And it's a pretty interesting show. It's really weird, though, because you can see it online. You can go to Towson University galleries.com and or tugalleries.com and look at a 360 view of the gallery, since no one's really allowed in there right now. Or you can make an appointment to go see it. It was my first time by appointment to go see it last week or a couple days ago, actually. Yep. What is time during coronavirus?
That's it. It's a black hole at this point.
And it was really strange because I'm in there for the first time, seeing all these works up in there, kind of exploring the space. And then it's just me and this gallery assistant, and it's just completely awkward.
Yeah. So how did you get the art there? Did you ship it to them, or?
I loaded up a truck and from my studio to the 5x5 panels in the back, drove them down there, brought them in. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're wide range when it comes to size of artwork.
Yeah. Yeah. I've made works that are 3 inches by 3 inches and paintings that are 10 foot by 10 foot.
I will say we were actually at her parents' house last night, Shannon from the girls' room. Let me give a shout out. Girls' room. Also, let us know what you think about these airbrush designs. We're all pretty pumped about them. Ocean City Boardwalk, feeling like we're 12 again.
Insert a picture of this.
Yeah, we will. Check the Instagram. I threw a boomerang up there. So we were over there last night, and I was saying hey, I'm really excited that we're having you on today. And I was talking about your car sales, the car sales guy that you made.
Oh, the wacky wavy.
Yeah, the wacky wavy.
Wacky wavy inflatable tube man.
That guy.
Yeah.
Right? And you made that. But he was like his own separate piece, like standing up off of another piece of artwork. But it was huge.
Yeah.
I remember asking you, I was like, how large is that? You were like, it's like an additional 7 feet or something like
Yeah,
that.
that was an interesting piece. I made that during grad school. I was out at UPenn, and I was trying to bring in a bit of a dark humor to my work. So I was getting more and more away from realism and kind of pushing into the more conceptual aspects of my work, and trying to figure out how to bring these two worlds together. So when I was making that piece, I saw the wacky wavy inflatable arm guy as such a kind of tragic figure in a way. He's always on display. He's always smiling, but as soon as you pull that cord, he just deflates. And what is he feeling? Kind of thing. And I grew up like 20 feet from behind a used car dealership. So I saw it all the time. I saw one of those things. And then I came back in grad school to visit my dad, and he was gutting a deer in the backyard. And I thought, what a interesting kind of juxtaposition to have this wacky wavy inflatable arm guy in front. And then the longer you sit with this, you start to realize, okay, something more is happening here. And it's kind of like a night scene. And then in the background, once you finally make it out, there's this man gutting a deer. So kind of thinking about what does that mean in terms of what's happening internally within the average person, these kind of dualities within life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
That is really cool. And the thing is, like, and it's, I remember that piece because of the largest, like, thing I've ever seen somebody actually make. And, like, you post a picture and you're standing next to it, I'm like, I mean, you're going to bust out ladders and, like, there's no way I mean, you know, it's not an easel. You're not just putting an easel up and painting it. Like, it's days of work being on different sides of the canvas all the time. It's pretty sick. Yeah. My all-time favorite piece, I'll tell you that one in a second, which I know I've told you that before. But yeah, dude. So when I was going through your website, not me, Shannon, brought up the point of, you said something in there in like 2010 about the Army. And she was like, was he in the military? I'm like, not that I know of.
No, I wasn't in the military per se. I was a civilian working for the Department of Defense. Okay. So right out of high school, the summer out of high school, I started working on a drill rig for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so I went up and down the East Coast, and I'm drilling in dams, drilling on kind of sites where they're going to be putting new construction, you know, taking soil samples, seeing if it's viable, checking for leaks on top of national park dams and things like that. So that's what I was doing straight out of high school. And then as college started to start, I'm like, I can't really go out on the road anymore. So they offered me a desk job, and I worked that throughout high school. I mean, throughout college.
Throughout college?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, she said it, and I was like, you know what? Honestly, I wouldn't put it against him. You know what I mean? And then, because I know, like, it was Patapsco or Dundalk had like a big JROTC thing, and I was like, you know, it wasn't a thing at Sparrows Point, so I definitely couldn't say I had any thought about that. But I was like, maybe he was in JROTC in high school or something like that. I'm like, I'm
yeah, I was not.
You were not. Yeah, but yeah, we'll clear the air right now. Fact check, not in the Army. Nice, man. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, that was when we went to high school, like that 2010 era. That was like,
I'm a baby.
Oh, you are a baby. Yeah, he's youngin'.
2015 high school grad.
Cheers. 5-year reunion. We're celebrating that 10 right now.
I'm in charge of my 10-year reunion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a headache because, you know,
it's looking like 11-year reunion.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's going to be. And there have been some people that have they've been really upset about it. And I'm like, it's a global pandemic. Yeah. What do you want me to do?
What do you want from me?
I guess I'm kind of in that situation, too, where I'm the only one that has access to our account with all our savings money for like reunions and stuff.
Were you on like the student government?
Thing is, I wasn't. My parents were extremely involved. Wow. None of the student government kids like, actually cared or like stepped up to do that. So my parents made an account, and it was originally going to be me and one other guy, but I'm the only one that was there to sign the paper. So
wow. So Jesse's got all his money sitting around. We're out here shelling out cash.
Wondering how we got all this podcast equipment.
It was not paid for.
Anybody listening from Patapsco class of 2010, we have no money.
Yeah, we have no money. We're actually in debt.
We owe money.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you. I know Kristen Baker and Katie Comer. I know they were on the board. I think they were in charge of it. But I know they tried to put something together, but dude, COVID's just killing it. You can't get anything. I can't even imagine doing something that big. Like, I know a lot of weddings we were supposed to go to this year. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, but
yeah, I'd rather do a nice one when it's safe than a half-ass one, and then people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to show up to the 11-year reunion."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's going to be more fun. It's going to be like, you know what I mean, that added wait time to get to it. Yeah, I don't know. You always see these movies of people having these huge proms and huge 10-year reunions. I'm like, that's not going to be my high school. You know what I mean? I remember our 5-year reunion was maybe 13 people at Hard Out.
Yeah, I didn't even do a 5-year reunion. I thought it's too close.
It is. Yeah. I would say
people are still like getting their life situated.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna get your life situated for shit. We're 10 years out of high school. We're still getting our life situated.
I'm still getting my life together.
I mean, I haven't even started. I don't feel like. But no, that's what I was saying. So like when we went to different high schools, like what we would consider rival high schools. Mm-hmm.
Did you guys fight over the poop plant or whatever?
No. We had the Peninsula Cup.
Yeah, we did.
We had a big trophy that every sport played all three. Like it was Patapsco, Dundalk, and Spurs Point. We played 2 times against each other, one at your place, one at our place, and for every sport throughout the year. And whoever had the most wins got the cup for the following year. Which I think we had it 2 years, and I think Dundalk had it 1 year because they had that brand new school, and I think you guys had it 1 year.
We had it my freshman year.
Yeah.
And then not after that.
Dude, Dundalk, when they built a new school, and I'm telling you, like a university, like the thing is huge.
It looks great. Yeah.
I mean, but you had kids saying, "I don't even want to go to my home school. I'm going to Dundalk now," and that's not a big. People don't just say that,
right? Yeah.
But that school is beautiful, right next to a college campus, but it had like turf fields.
And they merged with Solars.
That was it, yeah. So they got a technical school. So they got all the people that want to be nurses, all the people that wanted to go in IT. All them students came there,
kind of deal.
Which was nice because for them, we had 800 students in our high school. They had 800 students in their freshman class.
Yeah.
So it was like they got the cream of the crop, be able to pick whoever they wanted to play and whatever.
Yeah. So I guess we kind of, back in Carroll County, we had the Battle of the Bypass. So it was my school, North Carroll, and then they built a bypass. And then farther down in the neighboring town, Manchester, they built another high school. Mm. And that same year, they also redistricted. Yeah. So North Carroll was originally a 4A school, which in, I guess, some Maryland school terms, to explain to everyone else listening, it goes 4A is the biggest, all the way down to 1A, which is the smallest. But with the new high school plus redistricting, both North Carroll and the new school, Manchester Valley, became 1A schools. Wow. So we were kind of feuding in Carroll County while all the other schools in Carroll County were 3A and just destroys at everything.
But it's nice though, because when you guys went to regional and states, you guys got
we did. We would do really well at regional stuff.
That was one thing that sucked with Patapsco because we were considered 4A, that's insane. But on the lower scale of it. So we didn't have as much of a crop to pull from.
You know what? We were a 1A school.
Yeah.
We were a 1A school, but what screwed us is in soccer, the girls team was so good that for soccer, it might have been my senior year, we got bumped to 2A.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was dude, we can't compete in 2A.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to one state championship, but the girls went every year. Mm-hmm. I was like, just because they go doesn't mean the whole our tennis team ain't that good. Yeah. You know what I mean? What are you guys doing to us?
Yeah. So I make sure when I talk about my track state titles and my cross country success, I leave out those ones.
You want to? Hey, that does not matter. Success is success. That's insane. Yeah. So I mean, me and Jeremy know each other from sports. I would say that's how we met. How we've always kind of. I mean, we just had a conversation downstairs about rugby. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when did you make that transition from soccer into rugby?
So I originally got into rugby my freshman year at college, and When I started, I was actually at Towson. So a lot of people don't really know this about me, but I started at Towson and I had an opportunity to play lacrosse there, which I turned down because I found out very quickly I would have been there just to play lacrosse, being, D1 school, kind of all that kind of stuff. And first in my family to go to college, I couldn't do that. I mean, I was having conversations with the coach, who was Tony Seaman at the time, and the program was in transition anyway. And he was like, well, what do you think about being a business major and all this kind of stuff? It works out better with our practice schedule. And I'm like, nah. And I was an art education major at that time. So I would have been there for 5 years for undergrad. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to do something. I always loved rugby. You can attest to how physical I played soccer and the other sports.
He was a rugby player just playing soccer. I mean, there may have not been a transition. It was just went from like feet.
I just
to,
found the right fit. Yeah. So started playing rugby, but then I realized very quickly I wasn't getting what I wanted out of my classes at Towson. I wanted to they had just put in a Bachelor's of Fine Arts at that time, and I wanted to double major with the art education and Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And at this point, I'm on a first name basis with heads of department, head of the art program in general, and they're not liking me too much. They're like, we really don't let the art education majors take this many art classes. We think it'll be a little too stressful for you. And I'm like, you don't really have the ability to make that call. Yeah. You don't know me. So I contacted all the schools that I was accepted to, and Micah got back to me very quickly, and they're like, we'll give you the same amount of scholarship money if you come in the spring. And I'm like,
sick.
Fuck it, I'm there.
Yeah. Sure.
So I ended up going, and
does Micah have rugby?
No.
Micah did not have rugby, but fun fact though, we most of our academics went through Hopkins. So I was able to play club lacrosse at Hopkins, which I did throughout undergrad. So it was still,
it's pretty cool.
I was still staying active with it. And then when I went to grad school, the second time, because
that's what I was like, well-educated man.
Yeah,
very educated.
2 master's degrees. When I went to Penn, I needed that kind of camaraderie in my life. And rugby being such a sport that has a place for every body type, every person, every type of athleticism possible in one place. And you can't win without supporting the guy next to you. There's so many sports you can play where if you have 2 great guys, you can be kind of set. Yeah. Rugby, you really need to be supporting and pulling your weight the entire time. Otherwise, the whole team fails. Yeah. So I needed that in my life because I went through a really kind of dark time, found the Wharton Rugby Club, which is based in the grad schools at UPenn, and I was in Penn Design, so I was able to play, and I've been playing with them ever since. There's a loophole in the rules because of the loose affiliation with the school, where alumni are allowed to play, and based on the leagues that we play in, we still play other men's clubs and other graduate schools, so
that's cool.
Been playing with them ever since.
Yeah, I was wondering that because we were talking about downstairs, and you were saying how that team kind of is in like 3, I wouldn't say divisions, but 3 leagues.
Yeah, basically.
And I was like, but I know you played in college. So
yeah.
I'm like, how does a collegiate sport become a tri-league? Like you can play in other leagues that aren't affiliated with college. It's perfect
because it's not an NCAA team.
Yeah,
it's seen as a men's club that just happens to be affiliated with a school at some point. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah.
When you were talking about the team aspect, that makes me think of the movie Kicking and Screaming.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just like past to the Italians.
Yeah, just past the Italians.
Can't good. Do that in rugby.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. That's crazy because I've seen you just got back from a travel. I know we talked about it shortly, but I mean, you're traveling. Rugby's not American sport, right? So I mean,
no, not at all. Yeah.
So you're getting. I mean, slowly but surely.
Slowly,
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you're traveling to go play it. I know you've traveled to Europe. I know you've traveled to South America.
Mm-hmm. I've played rugby on 4 continents. So I played in Europe a couple pickup games here and there. And then I did a tour of South Africa where went with my team. We played University of Cape Town. Then we went out to Stellenbosch and we played there. We got decimated. Yeah. Yeah. They're currently the.
So was our deficit in points.
Yeah. The South Africa. They're currently the hold the World Cup. The Ellis Cup.
So it's them in New Zealand that are the big ones, right?
They're pretty big. Wales is doing really well. Yeah. And then during all of COVID, I was actually in Uruguay. So I was doing another rugby tour. I was in Uruguay, and we got to train with the national team, which was really exciting. And then took a ferry over to Argentina to kind of finish our tour out. And then we get this email from the Argentine government saying that, all sports are canceled. You need to get out as soon as possible.
Go home.
We had a friend that had dinner at the consulate the night before, and he's like, this is really serious. We need to get out now.
Yeah.
So we flew over as a team on LATAM Airlines, which stopped answering calls and weren't doing anything when this happened. So I eventually had to get a flight out with American, and that was something in itself. So we're leaving like 5 days early.
Yeah.
And as we're pulling out of the hotel, you can see these giant kind of construction screens in the street, and it looks like a kind of post-apocalyptic flashing of words going across, and it's all in Spanish, and I have no idea what the hell it says. But the synopsis of what it was saying was like, you need to get out, wear a mask, use hand sanitizer. Like, okay, cool.
I don't know what it says. I just know it's going down.
Yeah, this is
something's
scary.
happening.
And we get to the airport, finally, get on a flight, and we're sitting there ready to board. And as we're literally being called up to board, it starts flashing on the screen that our flight is delayed 24 hours. We're like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah. This is weird. And I look over, and there's this guy in a flight outfit that's like almost green. I'm like, there's no way. And he gets up and walks on the plane. This actually happened before they flashed on the screen that it was delayed. So he gets on there, and we're like, there's no way he's our pilot. This is ridiculous. This can't be real. And then that's when it flashed up, like, our flight's canceled. Apparently, after talking to the people at the desk, they said he took a test earlier that morning and had tested positive for COVID. So they brought in this group of people in hazmat suits. They started wiping down the plane. We're freaking out. Yeah. We start hopping from kind of any American flight that's just getting to America. Yeah. We just want to, if we're flying into Miami, if we're flying into Fort Worth, it's anything just to get our feet on the ground here. They're all like, no, we won't take you. We're like, great. So what do we do? Eventually we go back through customs, get rechecked into our, Argentina, and the hotel's like, if you come back, we haven't touched your rooms. You already booked throughout the next 5 days, so you can come back to your room if you want. Mm-hmm. So we come back to our room next day, go back to the airport. We're about to board, and we're like, is this real? Mm-hmm. Are we actually gonna make it home? And we were nervous up until the point where we got out of Argentine airspace, that we were like, okay, we're flying back.
We're stopping now.
And we also got we were told, because we were flying into JFK, we're like, there's going to be all these extra things. You're going to be wiped down. You're going to be tested with temperature and all kind of stuff. It's the fastest I've ever gotten through international airport.
Get out of here.
Yeah. They had a whole area set up where it was supposed to be for COVID testing, and it was just empty. It was a ghost town. Really? They're like, get in, get out. We don't want to touch you. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I haven't left Baltimore. Well, I can't say that. I've gone to the beach, but I haven't left Maryland. But you hear all these things that are happening, and people that are getting tested, and how they're taking extra precautions. But you go into stores, nobody's doing that. Nobody's following the arrows on the floor. Mm-hmm. Nobody's wiping down anything. So it's par for the course.
Yeah, you really gotta look out for your own.
Yeah, when we went to the beach, we took our own cleaner, wiped down everything we would ever touch.
Yeah,
our own pillows. You have to be precautious, because you really am I supposed to trust the word of somebody else? I mean, we don't do that already, right?
Right.
So how am I supposed to trust somebody that I don't know? That's crazy. I remember seeing that on your Instagram. Like you were just like, well, it might get out today.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that sucks.
Could always swim back.
Yeah, dude, that's with that endurance of rugby. For sure. Oh man, dude. That's insane. But dude, I'm actually just still trying to comprehend your trip to South Africa. Because like I hear people go back going to Africa, but I can I understand that South Africa is like this like major cities and stuff like that. I just always imagine like Sahara Desert, like big, wide open, you know,
and
ranges.
there are parts. I mean,
really
when we went to Stellenbosch, it's kind of more out into kind of like a less populated area. But they're all speaking, you know, Afrikaans as we're playing. Yeah. So we're playing against a team that doesn't speak English, which was the first time that ever happened for me. Because before that, I played a couple games in Europe, but I never played. You know, they were all speaking English. So when I go to South Africa, they're speaking Afrikaans, which is kind of like this mix of Dutch, a little bit of English, and then you throw in some of the native African languages just from them being kind of taken over time after time. Invaders coming in and then, you know,
taking over.
Yeah. So that was really strange. And then I had another dose of it, you know, a couple months ago when I was in Uruguay.
I was like, honestly, the weirdest part for me was when I played in college. It's like the melting pot you got. Even in community college, like soccer, man, we had people like, I remember playing against, my freshman year, we went up to New Jersey and played against, it was like a team called Burlington. We ended up playing another team in Cincinnati. It was like Cincinnati Tech. And they were speaking Scottish, Dutch. Like they pulled people. Like they were actually like how D1 schools would like go out and scout.
Right.
A community college in Cincinnati was scouting people. And dude, like but they all like, even though I couldn't understand any of them, like they all spoke this, like they all talked well. And I was just like, dude, this is insane. It was like, it's crazy. Like it's another, like sports is another language. Yeah. You feel what the other teammates are feeling. Like you just give it.
We got on my team. I've had people from Nigeria play on my team. I've had people from South Africa. I've had people from England, Ireland, Wales. A couple guys from Chile currently play on the team. But it's great having this, you know, universal language of an athletic activity. Yeah. Something that you can all communicate through.
It's that camaraderie.
Yeah.
And
it's also great to show up and, you know, if we're playing an all-American team and, you know, we got a couple of the British voices out there, a couple Australians.
Oh, that's offsetting right off the
like,
jump.
Oh, we are fucked.
Yeah, wait a minute. Hold on. Who are we playing again? I'm feeling kind of sick.
When I played middle school basketball, I was in a private school league because I was in private school at the time. We played Maryland School for the Deaf, and they were fucking good.
Yeah, that's good. They don't need to talk.
Yeah,
they know.
They would just be like sitting ready for inbound pass. They'd look at their coach. He'd throw some like sign language out, and they'd just like nod, and then they'd like, you know,
just run their route.
Whip it around and like.
That's
get
wild.
Easy layup, and it's like
okay. Well, I don't want to play these guys. my hamstring's hurting. I think I need to sit out.
Yeah, we actually got destroyed. And I guess in college for intramural soccer, there's a team of all Nigerian students, and they were so funny.
I feel like even clubs, in my opinion, are sometimes better than the actual like collegiate teams.
Oh yeah.
Like the clubs, like I don't remember UMBC. I mean, well, UMBC soccer was great, but like the club soccer team they had at UMBC was still very.
It's because
very good.
UMBC is a very diverse school.
Very, yeah.
So like kids from, I don't know how you live in a different country and you hear of UMBC of all places, but it happens. Yeah, it was the most like diverse place I've ever been.
It's funny because
I was able to experience so many different cultures there.
Because I did a semester at UMBC and then a semester at Towson, and I was like, you know what, I don't need to be in college anymore because it's just I'm wasting money. But when I was like, when you said Towson, like, oh, you want to sign up for some of art classes, we don't recommend you doing that. UMBC was like, oh, you want 6 classes? How about 7? Like they would be like, more is better. Like, whew, dude, I remember taking UMBC class. I was taking 2 history classes, 2 science classes, and I was like drowning in books, like reading materials. Like I remember I had a Civil War history class. Civil War was 4 years. Okay, a lot happened, but he assigned me 11 books for the semester. I'm like, 11 books? I'm like, bro, it was 4 years long. Like, I got Latin American history. She assigned me 7. And that lasted, like, 90-some years.
Yeah, it's
I was
nuts.
like, it's crazy.
So, like, they're over 18 credit hours. You have to get approval. But I'm pretty sure for that approval, you just have to bring it up. Like, everyone I've experienced, they've never been told no.
I'm sure that guy just closes his eyes and signs that paper. He's just like, all right.
It's like, yeah, I want to take 30 credit hours.
Sounds
great. It's
great.
like, cool.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, if you fail, we're still getting paid.
Exactly.
So. Yep.
That's exactly it, man.
That was one of my biggest problems with Towson. I'm like, how are you making this judgment call?
Yeah.
You know, if I'm paying for it, if I think I can take on the stress, why are you denying me this?
Yeah, that's crazy. So I feel like, you know, they want people in and out, get that turnover rate. You know, I mean, it's the same amount of money, I'm sure, no matter what. That's insane. Yeah. All right. So I love talking about sports, but I definitely want to talk about more about like you as an artist, your art that you have. I want to know how you got into it, right? Because when we were young, I didn't know that was the path you were going to take. You know, so like, what got you into art? You know, when did you first know, hey, I want to be an artist?
Yeah.
So art is something that I always did. Literally since I was little, drawing Pokemon, drawing Digimon, all that kind of stuff. I'd make comic strips with monsters and things like that. And then when I got to middle school, I went to Parkville, which had an art magnet. But I kind of worked it out so that I was able to do the art magnet and the engineering eventually kind of my whole time there, because even at that time I was still like, I'm not going to be an artist. And around that time, my Tourette's actually started to get worse and worse. So as my Tourette's and my anxiety started to get higher and higher, I found kind of an outlet in art. And then from there, I kind of had the decision, am I going to go to Eastern Tech and do engineering, or am I going to go to Tapsco and do art for 4 years? And I thought to myself, looking back, it's the total opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I thought to myself, you know what, do I want to be stressed out doing engineering for 4 years, or do I want to enjoy doing art for 4 years?
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I'm going to enjoy doing art. Turns out it's the most stressful thing you'll ever do
I can imagine.
in your life.
Yeah.
And so started to get into it more and more, and I eventually kind of found, but I knew I wanted to do something creative, career path wise. But even when I made it to MICA and I'm there kind of doing the whole artist path thing, I never really called myself an artist. It was always just kind of something I did that I was good at, but what did I have to say? So I started during my time at MICA, I took on this kind of role of an anthropologist, and I identified where I'm from as kind of a subculture. And I started to look at it that way, and what kind of makes up that area, and in turn, what makes up me. So I'm kind of discovering my identity as I'm thrown into this art school where it's very, it's affluent. There's a lot of really rich kids, and I didn't know how to cope with that. I didn't know, how certain factions of our society functioned. So by viewing where I came from, I thought I could understand my background better. So I started to do that, and I was making these drawings, kind of pulling out different parts of that kind of Dundalk society.
Absolutely.
And it's colorful, it's brilliant, it's depressing, it's the fabric of what makes me.
Are you describing Dundalk or your artwork?
Dundalk. Dundalk, yeah.
Both. That sounds spot on.
And then from there, I at this point, it was probably into my sophomore year of college. And then I studied abroad in Florence. So I was at Studio Arts College International in Florence, Italy. So I was there for about 6 months in total, probably about 4.5, 5 months of schooling. And while I was there, I thought to myself, I can't keep making these drawings about my hometown when I'm surrounded by, the mecca of art history, and I'm basically 5,000 miles away. So what do I have to say? What can I actually make work about? That's when I kind of turned back in on myself, excuse me, and started making work about my Tourette's. So I started kind of going into that kind of spaces of the mind, corners of the mind, exploring this interior kind of world and how I could express that through imagery. And sometimes even just through a brushstroke. What does that brushstroke mean in relationship to an emotion? Kind of serendipitously? That's a word, right? Yeah. Serendipitously.
You've been throwing out some big words. I'm just like, yeah, sounds great. I'm eating it up right now.
There was a show by Francis Bacon that was at the Strozzi, and I went and I saw this show, and it was all the artists that are kind of contemporary artists that are working in kind of the same vein as Francis Bacon, and how his influence of finding these psychological spaces influenced their work and how this could change that. So I feel like that was a really seminal moment for me, because I felt as though what these artists were doing in paint, what they were doing in sculpture, what were they doing in kind of light, and how they alter space and how the viewer enters the gallery was everything I wanted to do in my artwork. Mm-hmm. So when I got back to the States, I continued to explore this realm, because I realized it was something that I had to say that not many people could articulate, and I couldn't even articulate it. The experience of being stuck in a tic through my Tourette's, and what that feels like, being trapped within your own body, and how can I express these words, these images, these feelings to an audience. So to answer your question, it was
I forgot my question.
It was a lot of
I'm glad you remembered it.
It was a lot of therapy. So art became therapy for me, and then that therapy became my everyday life. I realized very quickly that I honestly can't function if I'm not at some point making something creatively. If I don't have this outlet, it's not working for me. And during my time at MICA, I never really got into the whole MICA funkiness. MICA, there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of different types of painting that people just explore, try things out, throw it all at the wall.
That's why I want to ask you, what's your favorite media too?
Yeah. So I, at that point, was into hyperrealism. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do everything to the T. I'm going to learn all these rules so I can learn how to break them. Mm-hmm. So I went straight into realism. No holds bar. Everything was observation. Everything was figurative. Everything was set in real life. And that was the same kind of academic background I came through going to Patapsco as well. So I was continuing this trajectory. And when I got out of MICA, I got my master's in teaching there, but that's kind of like a side story. And during
short tidbit.
Yeah. And so during that time, I thought to myself, I really need to push the conceptual aspect of my work if I want to make it as a contemporary artist. So I need to be playing with more materials. I need to be playing with these concepts more wholeheartedly. So I found pen. I went to University of Pennsylvania for grad school, and when I was accepted, I was honestly like, are you serious? Because I had filled out these applications while I was still in my grad school at Maryland Institute College of Art, getting my master's in teaching. I thought I was going to, go work as a high school teacher for a couple of years, and then eventually I'll get accepted to a Master's of Fine Arts program. But while I'm here, I might as well just kind of apply, see what the process is like. There's no way I'm going to get accepted.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know the art school tier list. Is Penn up there?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, it's up there for its program. It's unique in the fact that it's interdisciplinary. Except where most schools have a painting department, they have a sculpture department, they have performance, and you can get a master's in that. They have their small cohort of students. Penn has an interdisciplinary program, so there were 13 of us, but within that 13, we had performance artists, we had sculptors, we had painters, so we were all kind of cross-pollinating each other's ideas, and I felt as though that was cool. Kind of the best way to get the best possible product from all these different viewpoints in order to push my work further. And now I feel as though I've only kind of become into that certain stride where I'm bringing this kind of realism world and I'm bringing these concepts together that I developed at Penn. And I finally have a language where I'm, getting out everything it was that I was trying to say with that work that I started back in Florence, I can finally express it in a certain way to where people are understanding it and they're kind of applying it to their own vision. So it's not necessarily closed off. It's open enough to where you can take what it is that I'm saying, but yet you can put your own kind of insecurities or anything that you are going through onto the work and see that in there.
Which is cool. And I will say it's like
I guess quick pause. Shannon's trying to send us telepathic
No,
messages.
so yeah, I wasn't taking on notes. I was just making sure. We've had some technical difficulties with the camera, so I want to make sure the battery on the camera was good.
I can't.
And you can't see it.
I can't drag it down
to see if it's there.
Yeah, so I can't.
I also, if you do that, might pause the
it happened
thing.
last time.
So we're just gonna have to go with it.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
Anyways,
we're living our life like we always live our life.
Continue.
You know, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
Shit, dude.
Cleus, I have a question.
Yeah.
Eric can think on his.
Yeah. Okay.
Was Florence your first experience outside the country?
I had went on vacation with my family to Cancun, but that was just kind of like a week thing. I was 12.
It like resort style?
Yeah, very. Didn't really.
So Florence was like your
anywhere.
first like mind-opening experience outside the country.
Yep.
I think it's very great, and if people can afford that, it's something you should really do. If you go with an open mind, you can learn so much from going to a different country.
I went there completely, Dundalk kid from Baltimore. And I was open to everything. I learned so much, especially with the amount that I traveled while I was there. Every other weekend I was in a different country.
That blows my mind. How like if you're in northern Italy, you can like drive 2 hours and go through three different countries.
I went to Oktoberfest in Munich. I went to Berlin. I went to Amsterdam. I went to Paris. I went to Barcelona. I went to Belgium. You kind of name it, what was happening there at that time. I did it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Time of my life.
That's awesome.
Literally changed my whole trajectory of what I thought I was going to be doing in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like before, like you were pulling these very, personal art pieces or like, stuff that sort of means a lot to you, but it might not mean anything to these people in Italy or say like you tried to, I guess, relate more.
And
it's
funny that
within yourself.
It's funny you bring that up because special. A recent motif that I've been using are like the takeaway bags with the smiley face on it, kind of using that as a stand-in for the human body or a stand-in for like the masks that we wear on a daily basis because they're constantly reaffirming to us to have a nice day while there's once again this tragic figure that's to be used, discarded. It conceals what's inside of it. But the funny thing is they don't necessarily have those everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's something that's so American.
Yeah.
And more it's being phased out. So it's kind of like, well, what?
Like red Solo cups.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what am I going to latch on to next?
And I have two parts to this. One is it's crazy, right? Because like I've followed you on social media and I've talked to you for years. So I remember the paintings you were doing in high school. I remember everything you've done up until this point, right? So I've always put of like your emotion you were feeling on social media towards what you were portraying in your art. Mm-hmm. But then you have people like Jesse, who's never met you before, doesn't follow you on social media.
Right.
So now he's getting to see like, okay, these are
the right now.
He gets that wasn't a call out. I wasn't calling Jesse out saying he doesn't know. But now he gets to see, you get to explain to him that, and what I thought you felt during that time is completely wrong, right? Because I guess I was trying to view your art through your eyes instead of actually trying to adapt or like view your art as how I would perceive it. Mm-hmm. That shows A, how little I actually know about art. B, like I don't. I guess I try to feel for the emotion of like the creator instead of like me trying to feel for my own emotion. But yeah, that's like listening to you tell a story. It's like holy shit, I was wrong this whole time. You know what I mean? Like
I will say I do think that both of those viewpoints are valid.
Yeah.
I teach a whole class. It's called Art Appreciation. It's an intro to art history class where you're teaching the students how to see art because they come in with kind of this preconceived knowledge, but they're not wrong. Yeah. And there isn't a wrong way to view art. What you just kind of mentioned is exactly how I teach my class. You first look at a piece and you say, okay, do I like it or not? What am I seeing? And you make your judgment that way. And then you go in and say, okay, well, you take it on a more academic purpose and you say, well, what is the artist trying to portray? What are they trying to get across? Are they doing it well? What is this in relationship to kind of what's come before it in a art historical context? And how are they building on this language that's already happened? Yeah,
and I'm circling back because you made the comment of when you were going to Towson and the rules per se of art. And in my mind, I was like, I didn't think there were rules. Whatever you wanted to do, man, you do. So I was like, there are outlines to art. Like you have to. I mean, like obviously,
well, I meant
talking about like contemporary
so,
and stuff like that. So I guess to fall into a category where a genre, like what I would consider a genre of music, you have to follow some type of template.
Exactly. So it's the easiest way for me to put it would be what I did during my time at Micah, just getting into realism would be the same thing as learning classical guitar to the highest point where you could ever play classical guitar with an orchestra. And then saying, okay, now I'm going to go play punk music or pop music that you can hear on the radio. And how do I transition this into something that's meaningful for me?
Cool. Yeah.
That's super cool.
I say, I also feel like maybe art's just like I guess as I'm growing up and we are learning that life is, you constantly keep learning. Like there is no end point, right? So like, even with IT, like we're always adapting, we're always learning new things. And art, I guess it's just a forever change. I mean, you can change art tomorrow if you wanted to. Like your style. Yeah. You know what I mean? There could be a new style. Dude, I'm absolutely loving this conversation we're having. I mean, it's just like
I guess it's like
learning so much.
It's very scary but like comforting freedom.
Yeah.
Like I can't go to work and like just reroute how things work.
That's what I'm saying. You can't. Like what's there is there.
But again, it's also comforting that like things work this way.
Yeah, like I know I have laws that I have to follow.
Well, it's also extremely, terrifying for the artist because I mean, what you see the artist kind of making and what they're posting and what's in the gallery, you don't see the 300 pieces they made up until that point that failed horribly to get to that. Or the 30 different versions of that sculpture that got to this one final sculpture. Yeah. And that's also one thing that factors into, sadly, the price of art, and a lot of artists have that existential conversation with themselves every day. I'm spending all this time on, I'm just using this as an example, and this might offend some contemporary artists, but like you spend 30 hours talking about the significance of a piece of paper on the ground with a dumbbell on it, but no one can see the labor that went into that. I kind of lost my train of thought.
So for you with like pricing and cost of art versus how much work you put into it, how many trial and errors you've had, and I'll ask a question maybe to help you circle back to it. At what point in time do you scrap a piece and say, hey, this just ain't cutting it? Is it when you start to feel emotionally like, hey, I don't like the way this is looking? Or do you, and again, I know you're a very emotional person, do you start to think of how people are going to view that piece of art and say, I don't think it's going to come across the right idea?
I tend not to. I mean, I think about how the audience is going to be taking the work and in terms of the message that they're taking and their experience of it. But in my making of it, I'm not worried about how people are going to think of it.
So it's just whatever you're feeling.
It's what I'm making. I tend to scrap a piece when it gets too far to the point of no return. And sometimes that might be that the panel's overworked and I need to sand it down, paint over. The sculpture is just not working, practical reasons. But those ideas, they don't go away. Those ideas will show up again and again and again. In a way, I feel like I've been making the same painting since I was 15 years old. It's just new ways of portraying that.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're actually working, man. You just feel like you're doing it like what you want.
Oh, it feels like work.
It feels like oh no, I saw that post today, right before, like 3 hours before you came here. Sitting there sweating with a fan. Like you're like, dude, it's hot as hell in here.
It's so hot.
But I guess
it's like an oven, that studio.
For me, it's very comforting to hear that you try to stay true to what you want to express. And because I know a lot of artists, like especially in mediums like comics and stuff like that, they fall in the trap where they want people to like it, but they're not really making what they want to express or want to really create inside them.
there's a lot of artists that they still fall into that. I mean, once you get hooked up with a certain amount of gallery representation, you're expected to produce on a certain level, and you're expected to produce the same things that people want to buy. In the end, this is where I was going with it, the existential crisis. Yeah. In the end, you're making a object that is to be consumed. So you have the monetary value of what it is that you're creating, mixed with this lifelong pursuit of what it is you're trying to express, and they don't necessarily always collide. Yeah. You're really lucky if they do.
No, I mean, and that's, dude, like I said, I would say a lot of knowledge that I have from art is from viewing it through your eyes on Facebook or Instagram, right? So, I mean, and it's a very true statement because I follow no other artists because I don't know any, if I'm being honest, right? Yeah. Okay. Actually, yeah. So I'll finish up the statement because I was also going to dish out some beers too. But like, my knowledge of art is very low, and what it is from viewing things that you've posted. And dude, that's why I like the fact that you don't just post up finished products, right? Yeah. You post. I'm constantly seeing, halfway through work, constantly seeing you saying, "I'm scrapping this, starting over." Like, it makes me feel like, I feel like you know what you want to do in life, right? Like, you got it down pat. You know you want to be an artist, man. You're following your dream. So, like, for me, it's like, man, I like what I do for a living. I like everything about my life. But at the same time, it's like, you're posting things that if I were to fail at something or I just wasn't hacking it, I'm not, and that sounds bad when I put it that way, because you are hacking it. But if I feel like I'm stuck or I need to start over, I'm not posting about that on Instagram. Right. You know what I mean? I feel like that's negatively impacting me, but you're like, man, that's part of my life. You know, you've accepted like, hey, that shit happens. And it happens to everybody, but it's who's going to publicly say yes. Like,
Yeah. And I think half of that comes through that kind of other half of my life as an educator. Yeah. And, a lot of what art education is creative problem solving, and it's teaching students how to overcome failure. Yeah. And if I'm not being transparent on that, where should the students have the kind of why should they listen to me if I'm not practicing what I preach?
I think that's very noble, because coming from an IT standpoint, not even necessarily an IT standpoint, I've worked for many managers that aren't willing to do what they're asking you to do, right? So as an educator, you're not managing somebody, but you are teaching them. And in an aspect, that's what managers should be doing, because they've been through it. They are on to the next phase in life or next phase in their career. They should be teaching you, hey, I went through this. Learn from my mistakes. Let's take, the smarter route and do, something that will ease the pain and get you farther ahead. Yeah. But some people ask you to do things or, teach you things that they aren't willing to do, or they didn't do, or they don't know. And kind of putting that belief. I have a question that I want to ask regarding that. Do you find it more fulfilling to be an artist or be an educator? And you can take these route and say,
why not both?
You can say both.
Well, the thing is, I find them very intertwined. What I do in art is extremely personal. So it fulfills me on that level. It also fuels some narcissism that I have. I mean, all artists have narcissistic tendencies, because you're making the statement that what I'm doing is important enough for everyone to view, which is such a crazy, when you think about it, who does that? Listen to me, look at me, look at me.
As we make a podcast.
Everybody look at us.
And so you need that. It's a part of the education, but at the same time it's separate, and that I'm helping these students on their journey. And you had said before that there are points where why can't you just tell them I went through this and all this kind of stuff. But there are points as an educator where you have to let them fail. Yeah. You have to set them, because you can't give them all the answers. And I think that's the difference between teaching and managing. Yeah. Is that when you're teaching, you're kind of in this almost incubator. where you are expressing all these ideas and having them go through them. If they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. But teaching them in this safe space where it is okay to take these risks and how to approach those risks. And that feels very fulfilling to me.
Sick. I'm actually going to use both of them too. I mean, that's honestly, man, I knew you were going to take the both route. I just want to know why on each. You know what I mean?
Gotta go when you gotta go.
Yeah.
So I guess a little disclaimer to all my college students out there: take some fucking art classes. Because I kind of try to cheat my sort of fine arts gen ed. So I would take like archaeology class or like something that was like cool up front. But in the end, those classes were designed to just push you through your fine arts credits, and I didn't grow much or gain anything from that I feel I would have gained much more from like a contemporary art class or some sort of art history class or something like that.
I think there are several kind of different pedagogies that apply to different types of students when it comes into taking an art class. So you're going to have, at least this is my perspective as a professor, you're going to have students come in that are taking it for fun. They need a gen ed. They need to release some stress. It's totally opposite of whatever it is that they're studying. I've had doctors in my class. I've had journalist majors. I've had, the whole gamut. For those students, they're coming in, they're going to learn the concepts, and I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible for them to kind of get through, experience these things, but it's not necessarily about getting to that next level in art. Then I'll have students that are coming in that are trying to figure it out if they want to fully major in art. So I'm gonna push them a little harder. I'm gonna say, look, this is what you want to do. We're gonna feel it out. You're gonna figure this out through this course,
Yeah.
And then I have students that know that they're going to, pursue art. They want to come through at a certain kind of high level, and I'm gonna, treat them differently. I cater it to each of those students,
So that's very good that you do that, because I've had the experience of someone who didn't do that. So how you evaluate each student. So I had what was it? It was like ancient Greek history class. I got a beer. An ancient Greek history class. And he treated us all like we're ancient history majors, even though it was like a 100 level class. Mm-hmm. He's having us sort of memorize different sections of the Iliad and do these super deep evaluations. And like, I was putting more hours into that class than I was, the 3 classes that were related to my major, because it was so intensive and crazy. And so I guess I just really appreciate that you try to evaluate each student's, sort of motivation in that class.
And at the end of the day, it all comes back to monetary value as well. I'm not here to say I'm better than you as the professor. I'm here to help you get through this class. You're going to learn what you need to learn in this class, and you're paying for it at the end of the day. So why am I going to deprive you of an educational experience if you have a certain reason for taking this class? I'm going to cater to that.
That's great. Yeah, that ancient history class was the only class I've dropped in college.
Really?
Yeah. You dropped all your classes.
I've dropped out of college. I dropped the whole thing. Hey, look, there's a little associate's degree hanging on that wall over there. That's what matters, right?
Oh, yeah.
I see it.
You see it, Chance sees it. Yeah, it's in the corner.
But anyways, so I guess we can go.
I would, we talked about, like, I had a question about like inspiration and like what kind of drives you, but that was kind of naturally found in our conversation, which is great. I want to get into your artwork you brought.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm ready for a little show and tell.
Yeah. I want to I don't not critique them. I want to find stuff out about this artwork. So I want to what kind of drove you to make it? How long you spent on the pieces?
Yeah, it varies.
Yeah, it varies. That's why. So let's present, dude.
I also want to sort of touch on your gallery experience. Is that, do you just write something up? Have you ever had to like present your art like this, or?
Yeah, I mean,
you've had quite a bit of gallery experience. Solo.
Yeah, I've had solo shows. I had a solo show in DC at Hillier Art Space, which was supposed to be opening next week.
Was that the 2019 one?
No. This one's supposed to be
too,
opening next week.
Okay.
But the gallery, it was a huge honor to be a part of. It's such a prestigious space. But because of COVID, they ended up kind of folding. They're going to reassess in January if they can actually survive. But doesn't look likely because it's, it's such a grant generated space right on Embassy Road, right in DuPont Circle. So there are going to be a lot of people kind of coming through.
Love Embassy Road. That place is.
Yeah.
Me and Shannon drive up, and whenever we go to DC, that is the spot we make sure we go to.
Yeah, so it was gonna be good. But yeah, I've shown up and down the East Coast. I had shows in Florence. I'm just show wherever I can, whenever I can. I've shown in galleries. I've shown in alternative spaces. I've shown in tattoo shops. I've shown in, people's basements that turn their basement into a gallery.
You've shown in people's guest bedrooms that are on a podcast show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anywhere you can.
Anywhere I can, really.
How would you feel if someone got your art tattooed, that a tattoo artist is recreating your art onto someone?
I wouldn't mind that at all. A buddy of mine actually.
I feel like that could be a touchy subject for someone.
Well, a friend of mine wants to actually. He asked me. He's like, "Let's just go get the anxiety bags just tattooed on our thighs just right now." And I'm like, I don't know if I want that on me.
I got enough t-shirts.
Just buy a bunch of t-shirts.
Yeah.
We'll keep wearing them. Damn, dude.
Or no, money moves. Buy some t-shirts.
Yeah, buy
tattoo
some t-shirts.
students. Buy my t-shirts.
Yeah, just buy my t-shirts. A lot cheaper.
Yeah, a lot cheaper.
And you can buy two. Every color you want. That's
Anyways, let's go.
Yeah,
All right,
let's check this piece.
So this piece, I don't know how far away or where I'm actually showing this.
So the
I gonna
camera
show
will
it
get
here?
you, right? Yeah, it'll get everything. Yeah. If you want, you can put it center. We can pass it around, take a look.
Show it
If
to
you don't
you
mind
guys.
us, nice.
And then
do you mind us touching it?
no, that's fine. Just don't touch the face of it.
Just don't peel the tape.
Yeah.
So this is the fun
layer.
This is the fun fact. Can you show that to the camera real quick, Jesse? Like show it up high. Okay. So like I said, I've known Jeremy for years. I've always viewed his art on Instagram, and I 1000% always thought that he actually just put painter's tape on it. And I was like, you know what? Again, I'm trying to look at it through your eyes. I'm like, I don't know why, but honestly, I don't care. It just works.
Yeah.
So he brought
the like painter's tape or the tape or the paint
layer.
Oh, that's supposed to be the painter's tape. It looks like I could like peel it off. So it's almost like above the rest.
Yeah. So the fun fact
it's
is
painted on top.
It's not tape. He actually painted it to portray tape, and I'm like 1000% incorrect. That's not tape, but I'll be damned if I'm looking at it from a foot away if this doesn't look like tape still.
And when you look close, you can see the wood grain in the back. That's all painted as well.
That's all. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's also worth noting this is wood. It's not like
this isn't canvas. Okay.
Yeah, I choose not to paint on canvas because painting on wood adds a certain level of physicality to the work. So I can sand it, I can push into it, I can get really rough with it, and it's not going to have any give when you paint on a canvas. It tends to be a little softer. Also, when it's on a wall, canvas tends to be a little passive, but when you paint on panel, it's so sharp and crisp that it automatically asserts itself as an object when you walk into the room.
So do you have to make these little sort of wood mediums?
Some I make, some I just buy. It depends on my budget and time span.
This is sweet, man. Can you tell us a little backstory on this?
Yeah, so I've been using the smiley faces for a while. They kind of come out of... I'm
going to be honest, I thought it was a frog. But now you said smiley face, I see that's like peeled
so
in.
They come out of a memory I had when I would always leave my house when I was younger, and my mom would always say, "Have a nice day." And I never really replied to her like, "Oh, you too," "Oh, I will." I always said, "I'll try." So I started thinking about that in relationship to kind of my outlook on life, even from a young age, and pulling in those anxieties and things that I was feeling and dealing with. And then I started thinking about, well, what else says "have a nice day"? And those takeaway bags, they always say "have a nice day." They're always portrayed having this happy face, "Thank you, come again." So they are this thing that is meant to be disposed of. You can't see its contents inside, and they're constantly reaffirming to the outside world, I'm happy, have a nice day, everything's great. But that's not necessarily how life is. Yeah. So I use these smiley faces as almost like masks for everyday situations. This piece here, this smaller piece, is called Life as a Dog-Eared Page. So being that steady person in someone's life that you're constantly, being turned back to. So that dog-eared page that someone is constantly referring to help them out, but yet, or even in a relationship, always being come back to, but never being kind of the full story, never being a part of someone that you can then come to them for. You're always that dog-eared page. Damn.
How long did you just have this idea? I mean, dude, because like I said, man, I know nothing about art. Like, so my work, when I have to do something, I just do that straight arrow, right? So for you, if you get an idea, do you just go right to it?
For me, I'm weird like that. Most artists tend to, they'll draw out thumbnail sketches. They'll, work through ideas in their sketchbook. I have a sketchbook for kind of getting the very basic drawn out scribbly lines of whatever it is I'm going to do. It makes sense to me. And then I just execute it on the actual scale. It's not necessarily cost effective to do that way, but that's how I work. So this piece, I was thinking about the tape, being this, it's a temporary hold, and it's something I can easily paint in a trompe-l'oeil effect, meaning that it looks like it's there, but it's not really. So it's another affirmation of tricking you to think it's there, but it's not, in terms of, oh, I'm happy, but I'm not really happy. So it's this temporary hold. And that's how that kind of plays into it.
Damn. That's awesome, man.
So this piece, you were asking about kind of length of time that it took me. It was on one of those panels that I worked on, sanded down, had it in the corner of my studio, had this idea, and I painted it in a night.
Sick.
Yeah. And then the length with this one over here.
Yeah.
I painted that within the span of 6 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's show it. Bring that thing up. Again, I want the camera to really see that tape.
Yeah, we can get some close-up pictures and then throw them in.
Like, honestly, I'm ashamed. Like I really feel like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's probably...
So that's the top.
I mean, success for you, right? Because, like, I've been living a lot with this tape thing. I thought that was legit painter's tape just still sticking on there. And,
and then I just...
but I thought, like, maybe you, like... I honestly don't know, man. I just...
So this one's titled Happy Hour on Saturdays. But Saturday is not spelt how you would spell the day of the week. It is spelt like SADDER. So it's kind of a play on words that way.
So what's your emotion behind it?
They're the same concepts.
So I can tell you how, like, I feel about it, right? Like, like, I don't know. I feel like on a Saturday, like, I should be filled with happy emotions. Weekend, if I was a balloon, I'd be full blown, right? I'd be floating away in the sky. Like, I'd be so happy. But this guy's just barely hanging up there, deflated, upside down, still wearing a smile,
Maintaining that facade for everyone that...
just make sure everybody knows I'm still happy.
Exactly. But even though you might not be, you don't want them to worry.
Damn. That's sick, man.
So what made you choose to make it a circle? Does that have any significance? Or
Yeah, so the circle, I started painting on the circles when I started painting smiley faces. There's a couple pieces I have where I just use the round panel as the basic outline for a smiley face, and then I was painting on top of that, so it's just the repetition of that shape. I thought it would be interesting for this composition, so I just went through with it.
It's awesome, dude. So what's your plan for these?
So I make them, they sit in my studio, and then If someone wants to buy them, they buy them. If they're around when I have kind of a concept for a show coming up, they'll go into that show. Sometimes pieces get weeded out, but I always keep working as if I have a show coming up. Yeah. That way, when I'm presented with the opportunity, I can continue to work. The artist George O'Keefe said that at any time, an artist should have enough paintings in their studio for 3 separate solo shows. And I constantly work with that in mind.
Sick, man. That's what, I've seen like your studio, and I know you got some pieces. Definitely. Which if you haven't, like, I know we already touched upon it, but TU Galleries, right?
Yeah, TU Galleries, that's where my show is up currently.
You got 2 major pieces, larger pieces, right?
2 larger pieces, yeah. 2 5x5 paintings.
Yeah. And I will tell you that the pictures are crisp. You can zoom in and get really in detail with that, and it's 360, so you can see other people's work too. But they're 2 large images. That's sick, man. I'm honestly still thinking about how I still think this is tape. Like if I didn't know this, man, I would think you just like slapped the staple there, man. I was like, that's it.
For certain competitions and things like that, I'm sure that some of the judges may think that as well.
Yeah. So does art get judged? I mean, is that a thing? Yeah,
all the time. And it might not necessarily work out in my favor because they might just think, oh, he's got Post-its, he's got blue tape on his painting.
Get close to it, man.
They might not notice it. Yeah.
Damn, until they do.
Until they do.
You know what?
Yeah.
Hey, give this guy first place. That's it. Give it to him.
So there's, multiple kind of competitions that happen annually that a bunch of artists will apply for. And they're always a bit of a long shot. And there's always political aspects as well. But yet there's kind of a lot of my solo shows I've had through submitting to open calls. So there'll be an open call and I submit a kind of plan for a show, what I want it to be about. These are the works that are going to be in it. They get back to me if I got it or not.
Nice. Yeah. So it's like a job interview
all the time.
Yeah. Man, it's all about stress.
Well, the same thing happens with, being an adjunct professor. None of my jobs are full-time. Yeah. So I have to teach at multiple schools. I have to basically reapply every semester because I don't know if I'm going to be getting that job back. And it's all based on class availability, student population, all that good stuff.
Damn. How's COVID affecting that?
It's rough. 2 of my schools have dropped my classes, but 2 of the other ones are still up and running. Sick. The 2 schools that are up and running, they're going to be doing hybrid classes. So I'll come in and I'll do kind of a lecture and a demo and then get the hell out of there. Yeah. And the second class of the week will be an online critique. And then I'll talk about different things throughout the other online classes, and then we'll meet again to talk about the next demo, and then go back to having online critique. So sadly, I will say the students are kind of missing half of what it is that they're paying for in terms of art instruction. Basically, there's only so many video tutorials I can make, but they're not getting the hands-on, me being behind them, showing them how to see things differently. They're kind of losing that adjustment of perspective in their work. If I was personally a student going into my freshman year of college, I would defer for a year. Yeah. Because nothing changes. You would have a year to kind of sit around, and it's not like you can really get a job doing anything with COVID, but if you're going to spend $50,000 a year to go to school, you want to spend $50,000 on something that's going to be worth it.
That makes complete sense, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine going to school right now. I mean, like, I hated going to school then, but like, I can't imagine like the schooling aspect.
There's some classes where it works really well, like my 2D design class that can be completely online and the students aren't going to miss anything. Yeah. There's art history classes where they're not going to miss anything. It's more so the hands-on technique where I'm guiding kind of their hand, their motion, seeing how they execute in real time and making those adjustments with them that they're missing.
Yeah. I'm assuming we're probably pushing a good amount of time right now, right?
We're like an hour 15 minutes.
Yeah, I have more questions, man. I'll be honest with you. Like normally we're like, we've had a couple of beers, we're ready to wrap up, but dude, like, yeah, I feel like A, we haven't talked in so long. B, I've never really talked to you about your work or anything past sports. That's why I wanted to get off that topic and into your work.
We can always do a part 2.
That's very true. Wait, there's second times that we are allowed to talk to people in life. Okay. I want to know a day in the life, dude. I mean, I know, like, obviously now is not like the ideal day, weird. Right? Yeah, it's very weird, weirder than most. But no, I mean, I want to know, like, if you're teaching, are you hitting the studio, or are you sleeping? Because I know you got some artwork out there with the title of Insomnia.
So I don't sleep much, but when I do sleep, I kind of crash. So it's almost as though I feel like I'm on a doctor's schedule in a certain regard, because in order to hit all the things that I want to keep doing, I almost have to micro nap in order to have these things happen. So I'm constantly on the road back and forth between Philly and Baltimore. When I'm playing rugby, my practices are anywhere between 5:30 in the afternoon to I have some that have started at 11:30 at night. So I'm up in Philly for that. I'm teaching between Philly and Baltimore. So I'm, if I have a class at 8 o'clock, starting at 8 o'clock on Friday, I'm leaving my house at 5 o'clock to go up there, get everything set up, start at 8, come back home, go to the gym, go to the studio, take a nap in between somewhere, next day, do it again, different school. I'll drive out to Carroll County, I'll come back, I'll grab something quick to eat, drive up to Philly for practice, come back, finish my lesson plan. Next morning, I'm in Cecil teaching, and then same thing happens, and then I'm at Drexel, or I'll crash on a friend's couch in Philly if I'm teaching at Drexel that day, or if I'm teaching at one of the other schools in Philadelphia. And yeah, it's just doing whatever I can to make it work,
Do you find joy in that? Is that where you find your comfort?
I mean, it's it's exciting.
I've taken art classes where I feel like the teacher's just been like, pay me to be here. You know what I mean? But do you feel like that?
That's not me.
Just love being there. You know what I mean?
I absolutely
you would
love
not sleep just to get to class on time to teach your students.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, so. And then it's extremely energizing too. Whenever I leave class, I know I'm inspired by the work that the students are doing, their perspectives, the conversations that I'm having with them. Sometimes they see things I can't, and it's all about just kind of building that dialogue. And I'm a true believer in the fact that teachers learn just as much from their students as they do from them.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's sick. Like, I've thoroughly loved this conversation. It's been awesome.
So I've been thinking about this the whole time. This is the first time we've had a guest that's really outside our zone.
So I thought about this earlier, right? This is the first guest that we have had on the show that you don't know. Like, right? You've never had contact with this guy, So like, you've maybe not known some of the guests like very personally, but you've had contact and you've had, communications with them before. So I was like, you know what? This is going to be a great first episode where Jesse's going to ask questions because he thoroughly doesn't know the answer to them.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I don't know the answer to them. I'm like, it's going to be a great, this conversation.
And like all our previous guests, I see multiple times a week.
Exactly. So it's like, nah, dude, it's sick. So I will say that Shan threw together a little format with questions and stuff, man. And it was probably the most organized format we've had. Because usually it's like we think of a couple questions that we really want to ask, and that's where we want to hit. She put one in here that because it's you, I really wanted the answer to it. But if you could be any fictional character, who would you be?
That's a really hard question.
And that's exactly why you were like, do you ask me questions now, or do you ask them about the coffee? I'm like, no, dude, I want your raw answer. I want you to tell me.
That one, we had it's a moment of silence.
Yeah, I really think I'm at a job interview where I have to can I have a moment to answer this question? And dude,
who could I be? That's what the question was?
Yeah, if you could be any fictional character, who would it be?
Chris, is meat a better question?
Sure. I mean, if you could meet, but I think if you want to, I mean, dude, you're like, in my opinion, like, dude, I'm loving everything I'm getting from your lifestyle.
Do I want to wake up and be a Power Ranger every day?
Yeah.
Or do I just want to meet a Power Ranger? Like,
that's true. It's a very difficult question.
I will say when I was younger, I was a huge Harry Potter fan. And I mean, I still am a huge Harry Potter fan.
That kind of shit don't leave you.
When because we grew up, we're the same age as the characters in the movies.
Yeah.
And we're literally kind of growing with them. Mm-hmm. So when I was entering middle school, I would get on a bus at my home middle school and then go over to Parkville for the magnet program. So in my head, if I was ever kind of nervous or anything like that, I would kind of go back to that, like, oh, Harry Potter went away to school to go learn this thing that is so different. And I was learning art, and I kind of constantly had that same thought in my head, like I'm doing this for a purpose. I'm going away. I'm going to have an adventure with it. So that almost kind of pops into the Bilbo Baggins aspect too.
Yeah, dude.
Let's go have an adventure.
I will tell you, Shannon's never seen Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I literally just rewatched them a couple weeks ago.
So we actually have the DVDs. She has tried. She fell asleep like 10 minutes into it.
That's why I watched on the plane ride from here to Thailand.
Yeah.
It's just the extended editions fill up the whole time.
The Lord of the Rings, it is the story. The story is great. But I guess the movie, for the time that it was brought out, it was just it was so good, man.
It was a complete epic that had never been done before. And
like everybody's like, oh, it's kind of long and boring. I'm like, yeah, but I can say it for the Titanic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like, Titanic was,
which I also rewatched recently, and I was like, "This is still good."
I guess it's kind of like the original Star Wars trilogy of like our age. It's like the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, I do. The Lord of the Rings
kind of like pushed that movie's boundary, and
yeah, and it was just like,
even people that weren't necessarily fans of the fantasy genre, they saw it and they absolutely loved it. Same with Game of Thrones. Same with you guys watch The Witcher?
Dude, I haven't.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know about you, but
I like it. The show was really well done.
He gets on me about not playing the game because the graphics aren't as good.
I've never played the game.
I played it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, Dad, I can't get down with it. The graphics, because it's I think the story, you were saying the storyline is so good, and the graphics for that time.
Yeah. So actually, to be honest, I've only played the third game, and I just really like the gameplay. The story is very convoluted, but the show is really helping me understand the story, which is really nice.
Yeah, I couldn't get down. I'm a basic Call of Duty guy. Play it religiously.
Where we dropping, boys?
It's honestly my first battle royale too. Yeah.
I've never been a big gamer, like ever.
I think that's what's interluded to my career. Because I think honestly it sucks. I feel really bad for Shannon because like I sit here all day. And then I'll go downstairs and I'll sit there for hours and play video games. It's like, I feel like I'm like neglecting.
Shannon's like, I'm fine. I got TikTok.
Nah, I mean
YouTube TV.
You know what's really crazy is when we had our apartment. He leaves me alone. When we had our apartment, it was obviously smaller, but in the living room I had a desk, kind of like I have downstairs, with my computer and my gaming console. So she would sit there and watch movies, and I would sit there and play video games for hours, and we were spending time together. Yeah. We would talk. She would show me stuff. It was like, it was that time where we both had our own time, but at the same time it was meshed.
That's ideal for me.
That's good.
Which is nice. And a partner.
It's healthy. Yeah.
So when we moved here, I originally had my desk in the basement, so she would come down and watch shows sometimes. And then I had my desk up here, and I was playing games, and I wasn't getting a good enough internet connection. So I was like, hey, I need to put a desk in the living room so I can connect right to the router. She's like, all right. I was like, dude, we spend hours together in the living room every day. We talk. She sends me TikToks. I sit there and laugh, turn around and talk to her. Like, it's just like we're spending time together. I feel like that's what's kept us very content during quarantine, is we're together every minute of the day, but at the same time, like, we can kind of separate and do our own thing.
Yeah, that's important.
It is nice. Dude, it's been a sick conversation. I'm super glad you got to go into this adventure with you, because honestly, like Harry Potter, right? You have a skill, in my opinion, that not a lot of people have, that you went and learned, how to make it as crisp as possible or as crisp as you wanted it to be. And now you're...
it's one of those professions everyone thinks about, but not very many people do.
Yeah.
Or even now the people that do try it, not many very make it.
Yeah. And I feel like, and I feel like you've touched upon it, but like, what exactly is making it? Mm-hmm. Right? You know what I mean? Like, at what point in time do you say, I'm successful?
Hard to define.
I'd say being able to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a bunch of people that I graduated with, and I know it was difficult for them, but eventually they stopped pursuing their art careers. And that's common for art school. But they still have enough college training to where they, they're successful now and making more money than I am.
Yeah.
But
what is money? What is time?
Exactly. But there's, it's always a hard conversation to have with someone that's deciding to go to art school. And it also needs to be framed around what their goals are in terms of what do you want to do when you get out of here? Because honestly, it's a very hard answer to say, oh, I'm going to be an artist. Yeah. But there are so many creative avenues that you can do something creative post art school. So that's another kind of pivot. You always have to pivot as an artist. I went to an artist residency when I was in high school, actually, and they flew me out to Colorado, and I got to, go and take classes with these professional artists for 2 weeks. And that was also an amazing time. I still keep in touch with all those people. Some of them actually went to college with me, which is kind of wild. But Charles Parness was one of the artists there, and he told me, he goes, you're coming out of high school. You have, say, 15 kids with you that are, in the art program. They're dedicated to it. Leave high school, half of them are going to stop. Go to college. Say you go to whatever kind of college you go to. You're still majoring in art. Once you leave, half of them are going to stop. Then half of them are going to go to grad school and get their Masters of Fine Arts. Then once they leave, probably every 5 years after that, there's going to be half of them still doing what it is that they're doing. And it's not necessarily because they don't want to. They can still maintain an art practice and have, other jobs, but it's a redefining of what their priorities are. And not saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm still at it because I'm kind of dumb enough to keep going.
And doing what you love.
Yeah. I don't have a choice at this point.
I mean, I think I've always looked. So I thought about when you made the comment of you electing not to go to Eastern Tech for engineering and going to Patapsco for art school. Why you made the decision? What was like your driving factor? Because you said you have to ask yourself, what are you doing with this degree? What are you doing with this education that you're about to obtain? And then were there ever any thoughts on this journey that you were like, I got to start doing something else? You know what I mean? Like, were you ever thinking like, hey man, this is, I got to cut it out and start doing something else? Because what the tale is old as time, they say you never work a day in your life if you're doing something you love. Yeah.
I honestly think.
Do you feel like there's no turning back? I mean,
at this point for me, with the amount that I have invested and the goals that I want to accomplish, there is no turning back.
Do you think it's a bad thing?
No.
I mean, you're all in, right? You push your chips in the middle of the table and you're just waiting for the cards to drop.
Exactly.
That's good, dude. Yeah. It takes a very honorable person. I feel like it really takes a strong-willed person to make that decision, because you do have, at some point in time, no matter what you're doing, whether it be going to get your master's degree, because once you're putting such a narrow focus on one thing, you are going all in on your life. And it's very hard to turn around once you become 28 years old, 29 years old, 30. You start, getting married, buying stuff. Like, you have to afford those things that you're buying. So then your financial strain is like, there is definitely no turning back.
Yeah, and I will say that there's been multiple times where I've pivoted to make certain things work. So within my life, I've cut down on a lot of excess. I still have some extravagances here and there, but everyone does. But I've also, I'll take that extra portrait commission. It's not what I do in terms of my art practice, but I'll paint your dog, for a paycheck. I'll paint murals. I kind of do the whole gamut, kind of tiering those things. I won't present it as my kind of full practice. And I know a lot of artists find shame in doing that, but that's not where I come from.
Yeah.
I gotta pay the bills. So even if it's such a weird thing to think about, but I'm a professor here, and I'm teaching, and I'm also in the studio making my art, but maybe things aren't going well at one point. You might see me bartending, but I'll still have those other outlets still going.
You'll never stop doing what you love.
Right.
Yeah, which is cool, man. I guess, so I want to ask, so we can show it, are these pieces for sale?
Yeah.
And then where can we check out places?
Everything's always for sale.
Then where can we check out to like go see your other art?
So my website needs to be updated, but you can go on to www.jeremyjirsa.com. That's JeremyJirsa.com. And then most of my kind of current stuff that I'm working on, and you can see it being worked on, and it pops up more frequently, would be on my Instagram, which is just at Jeremy Jirsa. And then if you ever see anything that you like or enjoy, you can just DM me and we'll work out payment plans, or if you want to come pick it up. Yeah.
Sick, dude. So, any other people you want to shout out, man? Like, I know you've had some people that are really influential in your life, people that have really kind of gotten you where you are today.
Honestly, there's too many to name. I will say I have been extremely lucky to have probably a teacher and mentor at every point in my life, to get me where I am today. And without that support system, inside the classroom and also on the sports field, or just, people around my neighborhood, or friends in general, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the confidence that y'all instilled in me. So
honestly, dude, it's exciting to see. I will say that, to see you pursuing something and, dude, you're just all in. It's exciting to stand on the outskirts and see that. You know what I mean? To overlook it and kind of not be a part of it, but just be along for the ride. Watch it from the ground up. So it's definitely
I appreciate that.
It's been awesome to see. And, and it's cool listening to the things that I didn't know on the ride. I got to see it through my eyes, but I really didn't talk to you about it. Never, heard these stories and stuff like that.
And I learned even more.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And now I get to hear, now when we talk about this after the show, I get to kind of hear his aspect on it, his ideas, which is really cool.
How I quit my job and become an artist.
Yeah, and podcast and bartender, all the things you need to do to survive. Nah, dude. So before we wrap up, because I alluded to it at the beginning, my favorite piece that you've ever made is the truck tailgate piece.
Oh yeah,
all-time favorite. I've told her that multiple times. I remember when you showed it, I commented on it a couple times, dude. And I was just like, it was like my all-time favorite piece, and you have to dig pretty far back on your Instagram to find that one. But that one's probably my favorite. And I don't even remember what it was titled. I remember there was a beer can on the back on the tailgate. So there was
a beer can on the back of a tailgate that I found on the side of the road and then mounted on the wall. And then this is when I was still figuring out kind of a bunch of things. And so I took a spray paint can and I shotgunned the spray paint can. I just stabbed it with a screwdriver, and then wherever it went on the wall with this. So it became this kind of installation almost. And then I think I even had a shirt that was on it too. That kind of all stemmed from, dealing with a lot of self-medication and things like that. And then, a lot of my friends, drinking on a tailgate and bringing that kind of aspect of for some people, the party doesn't end for wrong reasons. Just kind of exploring that.
It's really cool. So on that aspect, I was still exploring still. So in my mind is maybe, because you were talking about correcting students and stuff like that, and saying hey, maybe we should venture into this. I feel like maybe some of the failure pieces are things that maybe you don't have the greatest of admiration when you put it up on the wall. You're like, hey, this isn't it. dude, that might be some of the best pieces.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like in the eye of the
who's to
beholder,
say?
you know,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, which is crazy.
And I won't. I know there's a lot of my friends and contemporaries that will go back on their Instagram feed and delete, you know, say work that they've made 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go back and do that. I mean, you can see my trajectory if you really want to see it.
It's your life, man.
Yeah, and I'm not going to. I mean, half my work is about putting up a facade, so I need my work to be as pure as possible, and you can see where it's came from and kind of what those influences are. So if I'm editing that, I'm not necessarily being true to my practice.
Yeah, nah, man. It's fun to see the process, right? And the process doesn't start last week, a month ago, a year ago. It starts a long time ago. Yeah. So it's definitely cool to see that. And again, I don't pay attention to art that much, man. I'm gonna take the lame-ass excuse if I'm too busy. I don't really get to read up on like what is out there.
I mean, you see more art than you're aware of.
I 100% believe you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just like the crabs and the horse and stuff on the side of the silos down by the stadiums. Like one day I just drove past. I'm like, damn, who the hell painted that? Like who just, you know? Well, I didn't see that.
Well, you can go as far as to say, you know, I mean, everything is designed.
Yeah.
So
beer bottle.
Exactly.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So artists literally create your memories in a certain sense. You know, they say without architecture, can we really have memories? And I didn't really understand that until a couple weeks ago, where I was just kind of sitting there and thinking of memories. And architecture gives a certain place to everything. So if you're saying, oh, I remember Disney World, well, what kind of sets that apart from last week walking down the street? It's the architecture that surrounds you. It's this environment. It's this designed experience of your life. And so art plays a factor into literally every aspect of what you experience on a daily basis.
Damn, dude, just like in my peripherals, as you're saying that, right? Like I'm looking at like this image that we have of Matt Wieters. I'm like,
Matt Wieters is really
somebody designed that to hang on a light post down at Camden Yards. You know what I mean? Like the background, the fans are in the background. You know, and like that, and then
probably an unpaid intern.
Dude, don't get me started on the Orioles organization, man. The Orioles and money don't go hand in hand, so you're probably 1,000% on with that one.
Well, anyways, I think it's a good place to end. Keep the people thinking.
So I wanted to do this, but then I was sitting there thinking, like, let's talk off air. I want to buy a piece from you today, like 1,000%.
Okay.
So I really like this little one, but I don't want to throw out prices and time and stuff like that. So I definitely want to get a piece from you. And I want to put it like back here on this wall, so it'll be on our podcast.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, but I'm good with, and in there, man, it was fun. I honestly feel like I've learned a lot. Like
definitely a second episode.
Oh, dude. And
I'm down.
And then that one we're gonna do like where you bring somebody to drive you home so we can drink more beers.
Sounds good.
Because I feel like that's when we get into like the crazy stories of Uruguay and Argentina.
Wild stories.
Yeah. I imagine. Yeah.
Well, anyways, Coffee Bar Podcast.
Yeah, dude. Thanks
for listening, guys.
Yeah, check like he's already said it.
Jeremy Jirsa.
Yes. Last name Jirsa.
We'll definitely tag him and everything.
Yeah, dude.
People will get the links.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thanks.
Later.